Good afternoon, and thank all of you for coming. Of course, we're here today to remember Damon DeStachio, who departed this life way too soon on April 8th. Considering the current pandemic situation precludes a traditional memorial service, we've gathered in this virtual setting in order to give Damon a proper tribute. My name is Brian, and I'm here to be the host of this memorial. You may have noticed that I have muted everyone's microphone by default. As we progress through the memorial, there will be several speakers, and I will call on each speaker and unmute their microphone in turn. If you would like to say a few words, please let me know by using the chat function to send me a message, and I will call on each person in turn after our listed speakers have their turn. There will also be a PDF memorial keepsake available. If you would like a copy of this PDF, which is sort of like a funeral program, but something that's appropriate for what we're doing today, just let me know or Roberta know through the chat function, or send her an email or a Facebook message. We'll make sure that you get a copy of it. And there will be two copies. There will be one that's suitable for viewing on screen, and a second one that's appropriate for printing out if you want a hard copy keepsake. At the end of today's memorial, Roberta will have a few words to say in closing. And once again, just thank you for attending. And we're going to get started with Roberta. So I'm going to unmute her so she can go ahead and get things kicked off. Okay, Roberta, you ready to go?
Super. Thank you, Brian, so much for organizing everything. And thank you, everyone who has sent me an email, called. It's meant a lot. It's meant a lot.
What the hell?
I don't have a pre-organized thought process about a normal kind of way of doing this. So I just pulled out memories and tried to put them together so we might see Damon a little differently, or you'll see Damon in what I say. And this is how Damon got his name. Yes, you were named after the Greek in the legendary Damon and Pythias story. Oh, how I read and reread and interpreted that story. The drama, the deep. Wrong? What happened?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard somebody sneezing. Okay. The drama, the deep friendship between the two young men, Damon and the terribly bully Bernice. Would Pythias, after being sentenced to death by Dionysus, really come back for his own death and free his friend Damon, or had offered himself up as bail in the event Pythias did not return? But Damon, young Greek, never ever doubted his friend Pythias. He believed he would return. We, Damon's father, Lewis, and I, couldn't help not falling in love with this deep and unending dedication to friendship that story detailed and embraced. It was so passionate and so right from the very beginning. There was no hesitation of who you were to be. You would be Damon, Damon forever and ever. And sure enough, over the years, how deep Damon's friendships went. Sometimes, like the Damon in the story, to the very edge of mortal and spiritual death. Like the time you, at age 2 and a half, left our cabin deep in the upper mountainous woods of Mount Lemmon, Arizona, 35 miles from Tucson, and decided to have a walk in the middle of the night to see if you could find the baby wildcat, the elusive jaguar we saw quite magically while hiking the day before. You called it the wildcat. You called it your best friend. You called it, I have to see him, I have to see him. And so as a baby toddler, we knew you were an explorer, but did we think that you would climb out of your crib at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and go through the door and out into the dark wooded area? No, we never thought that. But you did. You escaped out the door and into the beautiful high woods and on and on. But no, were you worried? Nah, but we were. When we woke up and found you weren't in the crib, when we realized that you were not in your crib, we went screaming out into the early morning light and heard in the distance other people yelling, and we thought we recognized their voices, and they said, "We have Damon, he's here, he's safe." And he was all fine. To say we were out of our minds when we realized that you were missing is truest of true understatements ever shouted. That event somehow never left my mind, nor his, nor the time, I believe you were 3.5, when you jumped in a truck that I had just stepped out of in the front seat. You jumped in the truck and you immediately pulled from park to drive. Your feet couldn't reach the foot pedal, but the truck started to move anyway. We lived on a farm, and it was a hilly farm, and you started going down the hill. This was when you were 3.5. And you wouldn't stop. And we heard you laughing crazily in the truck. But we said to ourselves, "That's Damon, that's Damon, that's Damon." I'll never forget those very scary events that you, while very vulnerable to horror or death, were unfazed. You were happy. You were laughing, cheering your inner self on. And now we come to you today, many of us very brokenhearted, others remembering good times, great times, friendship, and more. And I remember you forever and ever. Thank you.
If I had the choice of talking about Damon as a stepfather or a best friend, I would always take him as a best friend. We all have periods in our lives of great loss, but how do you express them about someone who was loved by everyone who knew him? His perennial good nature, his welcoming, warm smile, his great sense of humor. Speaking of a sense of humor, years ago, something happened that stuck in my mind. We decided to take a trip down to Disney World with the family. And this involved some doing to arrange for 8 people, including the kids, to fly out of either Philadelphia or, in his case, out of Charleston. But it was all arranged, and we went to the Swan Hotel in Disney World. And those who were with us from the Philadelphia flight were hungry by that time, and they went into the dining room. And Damon hadn't arrived yet, but I thought I'd check in while they were eating. And as I was checking in, this long card of questions, someone tapped me very strongly on my right shoulder. And I looked around and I saw a lovely little old lady walking by. I knew it wasn't her, but then I turned back to the card, not knowing what it was. Then someone tapped me on my left shoulder. And I looked around, and again, there was just some people passing, but I looked down at my feet, and there was little Henry giggling to himself. And then about 30, 40 feet away from him was Damon holding his sides, laughing at the great setup he had pulled on me. But that was his nature, and just saying goodbye to him with the phrase, "I'll miss him," is so mechanical, almost cliche sometimes when I think about it. But I'll miss him dearly, and everything about him and his nature at the same time.
Thank you, Roberta and Jerry. Next, we're going to have Carl Lind, Damon's uncle, speak. Carl, you're unmuted. You can go ahead.
Okay. You know, if there ever is a heaven, Damon is up there right now. And everything I know about Damon, he would be looking down right now and say, wake up, everybody. He'd say, wake up. Don't be so down. Don't be so glum. He said, you know, don't blow smoke up my butt. It might spoil my autopsy. That's what he would be saying right now. Because surely he is up in heaven looking down. Now, the first recollection I have of Damon is when he's about 6 years old. And we used to have these family reunions over at my father's house. And this was a time when everybody was seeing UFOs all over the country. And I was studying psychology, so I said, this is a great time to see what a 6-year-old would think about all these UFOs. I said, hey, Damon, what do you think? Do you think there's people in outer space flying around visiting the Earth? And he looked at me, and with total and complete logic, he says, well, I've never seen one. That goes to the core of someone who is a rational thinking person. He should have gone into science with that type of doubting Thomas. He said, I don't know if there is, I don't know if there isn't. But at 6 years old, he says, but I've never seen one. Now that really, at 6 years old, is something. Now, after that, I didn't see Damon too much. He moved off with his father. And we really didn't talk, I guess, for, many, many years after that. Then his father died, and I had a certain accident, let's say, and me, Bobby, and Damon shared a house in Ocean City. That was the next time where I really got to hang out with Damon quite a bit. And one thing I can say about Damon is he has a million friends. A million friends. He would call people up and say, hey, why don't you come down this weekend? And there would be 15 guys laying on the floor in the living room and having a good time. This was Damon's friend. And one of the pictures that I saw in the background here was of his then punk rock girlfriend. She was a punker. And another thing funny about Damon is, if I was going to compare him to any animal, it would have to be a Labrador retriever, golden lab. Who met him that didn't like him? Nothing like me. He got some other kind of genes or something. Because when he came down here to Costa Rica, I took him out with me.
I could hear people.
And even though he didn't speak the language, he had the body language that says, let's be friends. And that's the most incredible thing about Damon. Everybody liked him. He had this philosophy like, there are no strangers, just friends I haven't met. That's Damon. Now, of course, we all loved Damon. And as I moved down here to Costa Rica, and I didn't get to see him that much, he would call me about every 4 or 5 months. And we had a conversation going. I would call him every 4 or 5 months. He'd call me. And during this time when I lived so far away, we did become very close because there were years really where we didn't see each other. And I would imagine that his friends knew him best. Why? Think about it. When we're kids, who knows us better than our friends? Our parents usually don't know us that much at all. So when I moved down to Costa Rica, we would talk every 4 or 5 months in great detail. And one of the returning themes, no matter when he called, no matter what time it was, we would always revert and focus back to his early childhood and his relationship with his father and his mother. Now, anybody who knows Damon knows that he was very close with his father, Louis, as well as his mother, Roberta. And, you know, for the people who know him best, they know that, you know, when Louis died, it was, you know, it was a negative effect on Damon. And wherever Damon is right now, that pain sometimes that never goes away from a personal loss of that magnitude, that pain is gone. He is at peace with that. Now, we love Damon. I did. And the world would be a much better place, much better, if there were more people like him. He would take his shirt off his back and give it to you without asking. So that's about all I have to say, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Next, we'd like to have Vanessa Efron. I believe she's going to say a few words before we play a piano tribute that she played for Damon. Vanessa, I've unmuted you. Can you hear me?
Vanessa?
Yes, I'm here. I
Okay.
wasn't expecting anything because I'm very emotional. So I'll just say, Bobby called up and said, and I said, look, I'd like to play a song for Damon. So I picked something called Never Walk Alone.
Okay, I'll play that for you now. Next, we're going to have Lauren Madsen say a few words.
Thank you for joining us today to honor Damon. This outcome is a true example of just how much he is loved despite all that knew him. Untied words have never been spoken of Damon. He loved his friends, family, dogs, food, travel, sports, all with so much passion. I am so grateful for all the fond memories I have of enjoying life with him. There are many, but I am most grateful and will forever be for the gift of our son. Henry is my entire heart, my soul, my existence, my daily gratitude. All of you will always remember Damon, and as time goes by, possibly think of him a little less often. However, I will think of him every day. Our son has a striking resemblance of his father, and the day does not go by that I don't see Damon in him, and will forever do so. I promise Henry will continue to know his father, love him, honor him, and respect him. Luckily, many of you had many years with Damon. Henry, unfortunately, did not. I will look to you to continue to reach out and share stories and memories of Damon with Henry. Sam and Jason, I hold you both obligated to share and fulfill the same with Henry. He would enjoy the time and the stories to be had. I ask that you all not feel sorry for Henry. He's strong. He was born a fighter. But I ask that you celebrate what a remarkable man Damon was and be at peace that he is no longer suffering. That's what we are doing, and it brings comfort in doing so. Rest peacefully, my dear friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laren. Next, we're going to have Fred McCallie, a colleague of Damon's and a friend from Fulton 5. Fred, you're ready to go.
Hello all, Fred McCauley here, just kind of going off the cuff with this. I haven't written anything down, but I've known Damon, I guess, 20 plus years, give or take a few. Not very good with time, but I remember first meeting him when he and Jason were the star bartenders at the best food and beverage bar in Charleston, Vickery's. And you knew when you walked in the door and they were there, it was going to be a good time because they had a great time working it, and we had a great time with them serving us. And then fast forward, I don't know, a few years or so, and through happenstance, ended up at Fulton 5, where fortunately knew Damon, so I was welcomed there with open arms by him. When he always said with new people, and he jokingly said, with new people, he didn't even learn their names until after the first 2 weeks. So until they were fully vetted. But I was one of the lucky ones. He let me in and welcomed me. And we had a great time working there. It was a great staff, so many good people, so many wonderful guests. And Damon had been there the longest of all of us. He had a great crew of regular customers who we all came to love, but they always loved him waiting on them. And we work on a share tipping system there. And Damon, being the star that he was, usually made the most money in a night, but he always unbegrudgingly shared with all the rest of us. So he was such a great asset to that restaurant and such a great friend, and just whenever you walked in the door and saw Damon was working, he knew it was going to be a good night. So he's going to be so missed. He's so loved by so many people. And just want to say I love you, Damon. Thanks all.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to Jason Stalker, who's a very good friend of Damon's. Jason, you're unmuted. You're ready to go. Yes.
Okay. I was saying I'm really glad we've got these old pictures of Damon with the hairdo. That's what his nickname for a while was Do, and that became Doo-Doo. And even all this predates my 21-year-old daughter because she calls him Uncle Dookie. I've known Damon before either one of my children. Best man. He was my best friend. We worked together behind the bar at Vickery's and really made an impact on food and beverage in this town. I mean, we have a great camaraderie. I'm sure you've seen some of these pictures. You can tell that, well, there's a picture of me and him at his wedding. I was his best man 2 times over. It was very fortunate for me, at least. But we had a great rivalry with baseball. There's too many trips to Atlanta to count. Several trips to Philadelphia for Braves and Phillies. Me and Damon and Sam, you see us in a lot of those pictures together. St. John's, St. Thomas, Aruba, Key West, Lauderdale by the Sea. Me and Damon and Daniel in Miami for opening day one year. Eleuthera, Bahamas. He was a great cook. Damon and I executed a 10-course meal for 8 people for my mother's 60th birthday. It was a really, really great time. All the good times were always really good. Lots of Frisbee golf. And we had a lot of adventures. And I'm really going to miss him. And thank you all very much. I love you guys.
Thank you so much, Jason. Next, we're going to hear from Margaret Baumgartner, who was a friend of Damon's and a regular guest at Fulton 5, and she's written a poem for us.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me?
I believe so. I can. Anyone that can't hear it, please wave into your camera, but I can hear it just fine.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you, Margaret.
Thank you. I wish I had the words to do justice to Damon, but this poem is my best effort. It's entitled A Consummate Pro, a Constant Friend. For you, Damon. Effortless class is hopelessly sought. That one could acquire it would be a myth. It cannot be purchased or handily taught. For Damon, it was a natural gift. Evenings for years, he set Fulton 5's mood, welcoming us with flutes of Rotary. He'd cheerfully detail options of food, then knowingly bring us Silvio Nardi. At a wine dinner several years past, Damon was signaling it to begin. He tapped on crystal and broke the whole glass, and shrugged with his classic disarming grin. With no realization that our hearts he stole, he so freely shared his beautiful soul. I love you, Damon. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret, very much. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, please let me know in the chat. I haven't gotten anyone else so far, so at this moment, I'm going to give things back to Roberta DeStachio, because I'm sure she has some closing remarks. Roberta, you're unmuted and you can go.
Thank you. I started without crying, but now I'm crying because each of you have given, such a beautiful rendition of the person that I know and loved. So now it's kind of hard. But I guess this was somewhat bound to happen. You forget that, this is a very odd sort of memorial, as you know. The last piece, the poem, came basically a couple of days ago from Margaret. And it was so moving that both Jerry and I just broke down and cried. We said, this person whom we don't know knows Damon, sees Damon, knew Damon inside, as much as outside, but inside. And that made me want to go back to Charleston. Eventually, when you guys are all open and everything, obviously I want to see Henry as soon as possible, and meet Margaret and regroup with everyone of Damon's friends when we can get down there. So thank you again, Margaret, for your, I have to say, brilliance. I really do. It is brilliant. Thank you. A couple of years ago, I wrote a letter to Damon, because we had a conversation on the phone, and this is what I said to him. Dear Damon, I am so happy that you are happy. That is enough. Being happy. Sure, it's not over the top, fabulously on high with your hair on fire happy. That kind of happy is cool, but momentary. It doesn't last. But the kind that lasts is the kind you are suggesting. And this is what he said that I wrote down. I'm alive and walking the dogs and watching a TV show that does it for me, that says good, quality, and worth my time. Real. You are a standout of kindness, hard work, and love, my son. And now you are departed, and now we need to remember you and your gifts that will keep us alive for our lives. Thank you all so much for coming, and let us stay friends, and let's keep him alive if we can in our own way. Thank you very much, and thank Brian for organizing the technology, although at first it wasn't working, but I thank you all, and let me hear from you.
Thank you, Roberta. We do actually have one last person who would like to speak, and that is Chuck Maddox. So Chuck, I'm going to unmute you and you're ready to go.
That's great.
Thank you. I can't see myself. Can everybody see me or hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I hope I look good. So I didn't really prepare anything. I met Damon, I guess it would be probably shortly after his father had passed away, and he kind of came into our lives, or into my life, but to a group of friends from New Jersey who to this day are still a very close group of friends. In fact, probably the closest knit group of friends that I've managed to carry forward in my life. And Damon was always a big part of that. And I do remember he definitely wore his dad's death a bit, but it was always hidden behind that amazing smile that really lit up a room. And I don't know if he was just born with fantastic skin, but he just seemed to glow. And I'm sure most people can relate to that. But when he walked into a room, you knew it. And he didn't have to say much, although he often would. But you knew he was there. And we, these were the days 17, 18, 19, 20, maybe through 25. We were all a pretty fast and loose crowd. We had a lot of fun. There's a lot of stories that aren't for public consumption, plenty of them that really are. But I don't really feel like anybody wants to hear or me go on too long about that right now. But I will say that through all the years, Damon was one of the few people who, every time I spoke to him, which sometimes was often and sometimes not very often, every time I spoke to him, it was like we had just spoken yesterday. Like if we hadn't seen each other in 5 years, it still felt like we had just seen each other the day before. I don't have a lot of friends like that. And it's going to be hard going forward to have lost one. But Damon was a fantastic soul. Truly a kind-hearted person. Through all the mischief that we got in, and none of it was mean-hearted or mean-spirited. It was always in good fun. And he always managed to keep things elevated and light and happy. And I will miss him dearly, as all of us who knew him well will. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to chime in here, because I think everybody who's on this call knows that he was a special person. So thank you.
Thank you, Chuck, very much. That's all for people who have asked to comment. And if Roberta, if you don't mind, I'd like to say a couple words myself, something very brief. It's so great to see everybody here who knew Damon on one level or another. I only had the opportunity to interact with Damon possibly maybe 3 or 4 times over the years, but I can honestly say I have nothing but good memories about him. And him being gone is such a loss to everyone. And it's just beautiful to see how many people whose lives he has touched. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Roberta for giving me the opportunity to run this Zoom meeting. And we had our technological challenges, but in this situation, this is the best we can do. But I think we have done a good job of giving a good tribute to who Damon was, and also just seeing all your faces. I know some of you, so it's good to see some of you again. And just thank you again, and thank you, Roberta.
Thank you very much, everyone. And we will meet again. Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a good day. Thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.